Ladies and gentlemen, is through a political revolution. And your being here tonight in such incredible numbers is part of making that revolution. The revolution is not hard to understand. It is that in a democratic society, all of us should have the right to determine the future of this country. And that means that we should not have a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires to buy elections. That's not happening. Trying to suppress the vote. I see a lot of young people here tonight. Before this campaign began, a lot of these experts and the pundits, these chatting heads on television, they're saying, young people, they're busy with their video games. They're not really interested in being involved in politics or government. But what you understand, in the deeper sense, is you are the future of this country, and you're going to help determine that future. And when we talk about the future of this country, one of the points that I've been making throughout this campaign is that people who get a higher education should not be punished financially for getting one. That is why we're going to do two things. Number one, we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. We're going to allow those people who have student debt to refinance that debt at the lowest. People should not have to be paying off their student loans for decades. That's crazy. The other thing that we're going to do is end a rigged economy in which ordinary people are working longer hours for lower wages, and almost all new income and wealth is going to the 1%. We're going to create an economy that works for everybody, not just the people on top. What that means, among other things, is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Pay equity for women. Changing our disastrous trade policies that have cost us millions of good jobs. I was in Flint, Michigan 5 or 6 weeks ago, and what I saw there and what I heard there was almost hard for me to comprehend that is happening in the United States of America in 2016, where children are being poisoned with lead in the water. That cannot and must not be allowed to happen in America. So instead of spending trillions of dollars fighting a war that we never should have gotten into Iraq, we're going to start rebuilding the inner cities of America and our crumbling infrastructure. This is the United States of America. We should not have water systems that are poisoning people, wastewater plants that are outdated, roads and bridges that are falling apart. Let's rebuild those and create 13 million jobs. Many of you have heard Republican candidates running all over the country, and they talk about family values. What they are talking about, and we are not going to allow them to get away with, is telling every woman in this country that she should not have a right to control. And what I will tell you is the debate is over. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity, and if we do not very aggressively transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, this country and this planet are going to be in very, very serious trouble. I want you all to think about the reality that if we have the courage to take on the fossil fuel industry, transform our energy system, away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, transform our transportation system. Not only can we lead the world in combating climate change, we can create millions of great jobs. What this campaign is about is asking each and every one of you to think outside of the box, not accept the status quo as something that has to go on. Today, shamefully, we have a broken criminal justice system and more people in jail than any other country on earth. That does not have to be. We can solve that issue. Instead of having kids hanging out on street corners, not in school, not having jobs, we should invest in jobs and education for our kids, not jails and incarceration. This is not a radical idea. We're spending $80 billion a year to lock people up. Take a fraction of that money, invest in our young people, get them decent jobs. Save lives and we save money. Last point that I want to make is that when you think outside of the box, understand that we are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as well. Every European country does it. Canada does it, we don't. Now, think what it means. Just think what it would mean for all of you and to your parents and everybody else if everybody in this country had health care from birth to death as a right. It means you don't have to stay at a job you don't want to be at just because it has a good health program. It means that you can afford the prescription drugs you need to not get ripped off by the pharmaceutical. The Affordable Care Act, and the Affordable Care Act under President Obama has done some very good things. But we can do better. That is why I support a Medicare for all single-payer program. Everybody here knows that real change in this country never has taken place from the top on down. It's always from the bottom line. That is the history. That's the history of the trade union movement. It's the history of the civil rights movement. It's the history of the women's movement. It's the history of the gay rights movement. That's how change takes place. Let me give you one example to make the point. If we were here 5 years ago, and somebody would jump up and say, you know, Bernie, I think this federal $7.25 an hour minimum wage is a starvation wage. We have got to raise it to say $15 an hour. Now, 5 years ago, the person standing next to that guy would have said, $15 an hour? You're nuts. You want more than double the minimum wage. You're thinking too radically. You're thinking too big. It can't happen. But you know what happened? Workers in the fast food industry, workers at McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, went out on strike. And they said to the world, we can't make it on $7.25, $8 an hour. And they fought back. And then a couple of years ago, in Seattle, Washington, $15 an hour. In Los Angeles, San Francisco, $15 an hour. In Oregon, California, New York State, $15 an hour. The point is that change takes place when people stand together and say the status quo is not working, it has got to change. And we are at that moment in history. We're at that moment where people understand that establishment politics and establishment economics is no longer capable of addressing our issues. And when candidates get millions of dollars from Wall Street or the drug companies, they are not going to be agents of change. So what this campaign is about is bringing millions and millions of people together. Many working class people have given up on the political process. Many young people have not been involved in the political process. Standing together, not letting the Donald Trumps of the world divide us up. And when we stand together, and when we have a vision, and when we are prepared to exercise our responsibilities and rights in a democratic society, every person in this arena is a powerful person if you choose to exercise that power. If you are here, when you come here to watch a basketball game, you are a spectator. But democracy is not a spectator sport. We can shape the future. We can create a better America. And we can do it if we get involved and if we stay together. Now, there's a primary coming up here. There's a primary coming up here, which is really, really important. There's not a lot of delegates. I hope we can win a lot of those delegates. A few weeks ago, I was looking at some polls here in Pennsylvania. We were 25, 30 points behind. There's a poll out today. I think it has us 4 or 5 points behind.